everyone, good afternoon, and welcome to this LinkedIn Live today on From Frazzled to Fulfilled. Who doesn't want to feel fulfilled and not frazzled? So I'm super excited to have you here today with myself and the wonderful Louise Dobney. I'm going to be bringing her up on the screen in a minute. I have a terrible habit of launching into these lives without saying who I am. So I'm going to do that first. So if you don't already know me, I'm Jen Corcoran and I'm a LinkedIn consultant, and I help badass introverts and empaths to generate leads on LinkedIn in a way that feels aligned and in flow and not that horrible forced hustle vibes, which a lot of introverts and empaths and highly sensitive people hate. I specialize in helping female coaches, consultants, and creatives, basically amazing women who are selling their expertise. And Louisa is one of them today. Louisa is a performance coach and she helps solopreneurs, soul traders, whatever you want to call ladies working by themselves to design their day their way, because there is a lot of advice out there about how we can run our businesses. But I know when we're working by ourselves and spinning all the plates, we can become very frazzled. And I know I struggled in my first year or two of business of trying to do everything because I could. I'd been a virtual assistant, so I knew I could do the things, but I was getting too stuck in the kind of the minutiae and the admin of my business and not doing what sparked joy. So if anyone is here today, let me know, say hi. You know, it's always good to know I'm not chatting to myself. Oh, thank you. Oh, I love that, Amy. Yes, it's a great surname. It's my husband's surname. A lot of people think it's mine because it's Irish, but his dad's Irish. But yes, it is. It's a good surname, but it's annoying to spell on the phone. And I'm sure you'll relate to that. So I'm going to quickly put this on as well. If anyone is joining, let us know where you're joining us from in the world. And if you're watching on replay, don't be shy, just join in as well. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the wonderful Louisa and we're going to dive in because we know your time is precious. And this is a perfect topic, I think, for a Monday. And as we're going into spring, how to, get on with our days, make the most of it. I have got some notes here. We're going to be chatting about 5 essential daily practices that you can implement into your business. So bear with me a sec. I'm going to welcome Louisa up now. Hello, Louisa.
Hi, Jen.
Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm very excited to have you on because you're definitely a badass. And I should have said, anyone listening today, I'm going to have 3 badass ladies coming on in the next week who are doing their first LinkedIn Live. And I know it can feel a bit, when you do something for the first time. And I know Louise is amazing. And I think you're going to enjoy this, hopefully. And you're going to see that it's not that big a deal. I think when we're doing anything new, like especially tech-wise, it can feel a bit daunting. But the world deserves to hear from you. And I know there's a lot of women out there struggling with running their businesses and their days are all over the show. They have absolutely no routine. So I can't wait to ask you these questions. So the first one I'm going to ask you about is morning rituals. And I'm sure lots of people know that it is a good idea to have a morning ritual, but it doesn't always happen. And I know in the past, I have struggled with this. If I don't get out for a walk first thing, I can get glued to my seat and suddenly I haven't stood up or stretched in 2 hours. And I've had back surgery, so this is not a good thing. So I'd love to know, why do you think morning rituals matter? And have you got any tips about getting one in place?
Sure. So yeah, first of all, it's great to be here. And I'm just so passionate about this topic, the topic being about, these 5 essential daily practices, because I think they can really make a difference. And I've been on the other side of not looking after my morning routine, not doing any morning rituals. And I've kind of, sort of seeing the impact for myself. So I'd love to know from people who are listening, at what point in your morning do you start checking your mobile phone? Because I think this is often part of our morning routine, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's a positive morning ritual for us. And I think for me, morning rituals matter because they set us up well for the day. I don't know how many people I'm sort of describing in terms of their morning. If you get out of bed, you maybe check your phone, you're then having breakfast, maybe with your kids, with your partner, you're jumping in the shower, taking the kids to school, maybe taking the dog for a walk. And then if you're lucky, then you're opening your laptop and you might still have a bit of breakfast with you whilst you're sort of on your laptop. And already the day is starting, you're straight into the emails. And have you actually had any time to really check in with yourself? And what I love about rituals, and now they're different to routines, because a routine is like brushing your teeth or doing some kind of regular habit where you're not really thinking about it. Now, there may be some people listening who are really intentional with brushing their teeth and they're really thinking about the brushing rather than what they got to do next. But for me, and what I've sort of read about in regard to rituals, is there's a real intention, there's a purpose to them, and you're giving yourself a chance to check in with yourself. So just a quick example of a morning ritual that I do is I've got this really great diary called the 6-minute diary, and in the morning it asks you kind of 3 questions. First one is describe 3 things you're grateful for, then 5 intentions for the day ahead, how you're going to make it a really great day, and then a positive affirmation. And it's it's built to take about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And how nice is that? It's a really great opportunity to just connect with yourself, maybe start noticing how you're feeling. Are you feeling stressed already? Have you really got a lot on your mind? But you can get things down on paper and just feel like, oh, I'm taking care of myself rather than thinking about the kids, my partner, my work, the dog. I'm just taking some time for myself just for a few minutes. So that's just one example. There are many others that I could share. And I'm sure there are people in the room that know of the things that have worked for them in the past. And perhaps they've got out of the habit of doing something that really works for them. And it doesn't need to take long. That's what I love. It doesn't need to take long.
Yeah, I know, I love that. And I think I can totally relate to it, with the checking the phone. It was a really bad habit I had. And in the pandemic and lockdown was the first time I said, sod this. And now I don't bring my phone to bed with me because it was the first thing I would check. And I'd be straight on LinkedIn and looking at notifications. And I think you wake up in that kind of stressed zone. And I personally don't wake up until I've had my shower and my breakfast. So why the hell am I checking emails and like LinkedIn? It's just so not good. So now I don't even look at my phone till probably 9:30. Like I've woken up. So and I know a lot of people are putting in comments in the chat as well. So Wendy's kind of saying she waits at least a half an hour, to just check her phone, and I totally think that is a good thing. So Mary's saying middle planet. Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. So yeah, keep them coming, ladies. Any comments or feedback, keep them coming, because I love what Louisa said about starting her day. But I know in the past, or even the odd time now, when you get a bit stressed and frazzled, you're like, no, I don't have time for this. Even though it will literally only take 3 minutes, but it's the best thing you can do. And sometimes, even having that walk, you're like, I don't have time for a walk. But when you have that walk, you clear your head, you come back and you've more energy. So like, let us know if you do like affirmations in the morning, if you do gratitude. I loved your 5 intentions. Part of me was like, 5, wow, that's quite a lot. But it's good. So I'm going to dive into the second question that we have, because you talk a lot about power hours. So can you kind of break down what is a power hour and how can they help us have a more fulfilling day rather than being stressed out of our minds?
So I feel like I was kind of quite late to the party with this whole concept of power hours. So I went through my, my career, my 9-to-5 job, having no clue about what a power hour was. And it was only something I really came across probably about a year ago. And sort of to put it succinctly, it's when you do your best work. It's when you feel you've got the most energy, most focus. And again, I don't want to speak for our audience because we're all different. And as a coach, I'm never going to second guess people. It's always about, noticing what you notice. But if you're a morning person, then perhaps it's the first few hours of the day when you feel like you're at your sort of best, you've got your best energy to do your best work. And I think what's really important is, okay, so if you now know when you've got your best energy, your best focus, how are you spending that time? So back to my 9-to-5, typically I'd get into the office not feeling well, I hadn't done a morning ritual. I might have been checking my emails whilst I was having my breakfast. I'd walk in, but not in a way that was particularly intentional. So no morning ritual there really. I'd open up my well, actually I didn't have a laptop, I had a PC. And the first thing I do was to check my emails. And I think the reason why I did this was largely because I work for an international organization with offices around the world. So there'd be a lot of emails that had come in overnight. A number of colleagues, they'd be sort of finishing their day as I started my day. So it was often really good time to sort of check my emails. But the big question was, and I guess this is a question to the audience as well. So if my power hours are first thing in the morning, am I best placed to use that time to answer my emails? And the answer I'd say is no. They have. I do need to answer my emails, but is that my most challenging task that needs my some optimum brain energy and focus? And as I was thinking about this interview today, I was thinking, so when did I do my best work? It's probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock, after I'd got snacked on some kind of chocolate bar to give me a second energy boost in the day. And it was when the office was starting to get quieter.
Yeah.
And then I'd spend until maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock in the office. So my voice is getting higher because I'm like, I've gone past my allotted working hours and I've not used my power hours well. So now I'm doing a much longer day than I really, want to, which is then meaning my evening is squeezed and I'm more likely to get more tired, and it could lead to some kind of burnout. So the reason why I'm such a fan of power hours and encouraging people to really notice when they have their best energy peaks is to really make the most of that time for the things that you find maybe the most challenging, most difficult, because you're at your best. You have a really good opportunity to get them done in a timely fashion, because they're all about trying to get things done in a way that means that we still can enjoy our evenings and we're not working super long hours and getting really frazzled.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's refreshing to hear, because there's a lot of hype about, the miracle mornings and the 5 a.m. club, and not all of us are morning people. And I am certainly not a morning person. So you will not get the best out of me at 9 o'clock. I don't work with any clients at that time. So I think, but yeah, like you say, in corporate, you kind of have to hit the ground running. But yeah, I definitely didn't wake up probably till at least 10:30, 11. So I think it's really good to know that it's okay if you're not a morning person and you can design your day your way. And I remember in the pandemic being part of a kind of a coaching group for consultants, and the lady running it, she shared her schedule with us all, and she worked with her clients 12 to 4. And I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, wow, I love this. She was so intentional with her morning routine, bringing her kids to school. She'd play tennis. She'd kind of just do all of her like house, admin or laundry, whatever she needed to do, then give that focus to her clients 12 to 4. And that was it. So she kind of so it's kind of like a condensed version. Power hour is the condensed version of that. So I think it's just giving ourselves permission to go, you know what, I work at my peak or whatever, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Just do what works for you, and
Definitely.
not yourself up. Because I know I used to feel a bit, you kind of forced yourself, especially when I started in business, forced myself at my desk at 9 o'clock, because I was still, in that corporate mindset of it's 9 to 5, and here I am. And I definitely was like that. I'd say for the whole first year in business, it was only after I started giving myself permission, kind of going, actually, I'm not an employee anymore. I don't need to stay here from 9 to 5. I can do it my way. So yeah, I love what you're saying. So
there's so much more I want to say here, but I can't, because there's not enough time. But I think, like you say very quickly, it's okay for us to make these decisions, because what's the point almost of like running your own business if you don't have the freedom to choose your hours? And you talked about forcing yourself to be at your desk. I'm all about ease and noticing how we feel and making it enjoyable so that we want to carry on doing it, because being in business is hard. We're creating things ourselves. Let's create some more ease in the system so that things are not quite as hard. They don't need to be hard. I think we're sort of told things need to be hard because then you feel like you've really achieved something. But I want to kind of dispel that. I mean, that's just my feeling, that I think we can create more ease in the system and still get the best, still get really good results.
Exactly. I just think because there's so much hype about that hustle, hustle, hustle. out there and, hit 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures. And we're all different and we've all got different energy. And some of us are going to work one-to-one. Some of us are going to want to work with massive groups of people. Some are extroverts, some are introverts. So, what works for one person won't work for another. So I love that you're working with your clients like individually to find out what works for them. We're all different and there's no right or wrong. But yeah, I think there's so much hype and noise out there that you have to be like hustling and slaying. I see a lot on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh my God, it's my hell. Like, I just want to be aligned and in flow. And like you said, easy. Like, it doesn't have to be hard.
No.
So next question I'm going to hop on to is about habits. So can you give us an example of a habit that you've integrated into your day since becoming a solopreneur, and how has this habit made like a positive difference to your days?
So I'm a massive fan of habits because I love the way they take the decision making out of something you're doing on a regular basis, and there's much less sort of internal battle about when am I going to do this thing, why am I doing it. You just do it. And again, this is saving time, because if it's something you do on a regular basis, then you're not thinking, oh, okay, so how am I going to do this? It just happens. That again, it's all back to this ease. So an example for me is I now have committed to my mailing list that I'll be sending them a weekly newsletter, and I've been doing this since September. And there's only been a few occasions when I haven't done it, and that's been largely because of holidays. So I guess that's quite a substantial habit of writing that newsletter. But now what I do is I write that newsletter, or at least start writing it on a Wednesday morning, because I know that's a power hour for me. Instead of writing my newsletter after the afternoon slump time, which is what I used to do before I realized when my power hours really were and why they mattered, I do it in the morning on a Wednesday, and I'm in a co-working I do a co-working session which starts at 9:30. So there's that extra sort of ritual towards it. So I know, okay, I'm in this co-working space, I'm going to be writing my newsletter, and that's the space that I use to start writing it. And the nice thing is, because I know I'm doing it on a Wednesday morning, my subconscious starts thinking a few days before, okay, this is a topic I'd like to work on. So again, I'm not always a massive fan of planning. I have a sort of love-hate relationship with planning. Sometimes I don't want to plan too much because I want to just let my subconscious tell me what to do next and to allow that creativity to come. So that's a habit that works really well for me. And it's, made a really big difference, because I now, have that schedule of, this is when I write my content. There's less decision making involved, and I just to quote a neuroscientist, because I love learning about the neuroscience behind a lot of these things. We what's important is we notice what we notice, but also it's quite interesting when it's backed up by research. So there's a neuroscientist called Gerhard Roth who talks about thinking is time consuming, and routines, and I guess habits are part of routines, help our brains to conserve energy and minimize risk. And I love that thing about conserving the energy, because again, it's like, let's use that energy for other things, more challenging tasks, but let's conserve it where we can on those regular tasks that we can turn into habits, and then they just happen more regularly. So that's why I love habits.
I was going to say, is your co-working, is that a habit as well? Like, do you go to a co-working? Is it like an online co-working, or are you going to an actual venue to do it?
It's in a Zoom room, and it's fascinating because there's a check-in every half an hour. How are you doing? And then you sort of write what you're up to and what you've achieved at the end of it. And no one's sort of saying anything like, oh, you should have done more, or why did you do this, or whatever. There's absolutely no judgment. It's just do what you want to do in an environment where there are other people, and it's a really nice accountability space, because you just feel like you're part of a team even though you're all working in different places. So it's very cool. But it's just on Zoom.
And I think, because I know I've run things like in the past I used to run like very small group programs, and every second week we would have an accountability session like that. And I think we used to just check in at the start, and then people could switch off their camera, mute themselves, but they announced at the start what they were going to work on, and then we came back, whether it was 90 minutes later, and said, what did you do? And people take action. And it's funny, I think when you are on your own, that was one of my biggest struggles, of getting stuff done, and not making excuses and procrastinating. And leaning into perfectionism and kind of like lying to yourself, oh, I'll wait on that. Whereas it's great when you've got the accountability. It's great that you can do that online. And I would encourage anyone listening as well. I know when I first started, the first 2 years when I was on my own, I used to go to a co-working space just once or twice a week just to get out of the house. And you definitely get more done because there's less distractions of like switching on the telly, oh, I must put a wash on, let me check the dishwasher, just faffing about. So yeah, I would encourage like anyone if they're listening to us today and they think, God, I wouldn't mind a bit of that. It does help now and again because especially if you're at home the whole time, as much as I love it, like it is good to, do stuff. And to be honest, this is accountable for me, like even doing this live, like we're both on and I'm like, well, I want to show up and now I'm doing it because I've committed to interviewing Louisa and it's going to happen. Yeah, I'm definitely loving the comments coming in. I love it, Lillian saying it as well. Hustle culture definitely doesn't work for us empaths and HSPs. I absolutely agree. So next topic I'm going to come on to is regular breaks. And I know this is definitely something I struggle with because when I get in the zone, I can easily lose myself for a few hours and go, oh my God, my back. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about regular breaks and what we could do.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So I've run a poll in LinkedIn, and for anyone listening, we've still got a couple of hours if you want to sort of type in your response to this. But I was asking people what stops them from taking regular breaks, the assumption being that people don't tend to take them. And when I say a regular break, again, there's some research that's been done that ideally we should be taking breaks every 75 to 90 minutes, because that's like the optimum amount of time for concentrating and getting work done. And like mobile phones, we need to be recharged. And again, I think society doesn't sort of encourage us to take breaks that often. And I think, in terms of the poll results so far, the top answer has been because people lose track of time, as you say. And that can be okay if you're in the flow. And there's a whole concept of creating a flow to your work. And that can be so powerful when you're not distracted by your mobile phone or emails and you're getting into the zone, then that's brilliant. But I guess if you're doing it every day for really significant amounts of time, then that can really lead to you needing to properly recharge, because there's only so much time that we can spend working without breaks. But other people think it can also be about the momentum side of things. So for any ladies in the room, or maybe gentlemen too, I mean, I've had conversations with colleagues where they've been like, I need to leave the room to go to the bathroom. My body's telling me I need to leave, but I don't want to, because either I'm in the flow and I'm scared I'm going to lose that momentum, or I'm just being really stubborn about this task that I just want to get it done. The thing is, we're always going to be in a situation, but of making reasons and excuses as to why we should stick our desks. But if we think about the knock-on effect longer term, and I know when I don't take regular breaks, I really feel it in the evenings and at the weekends. So in terms of how to build breaks into our daily routine, I guess there's a couple of things here. One would be to set a timer for maybe 75 to 90 minutes. And then I think one of the other key things is to know what's the benefit for you of taking that break. Because I think often, I certainly feel this way, or certainly did when I worked in my 9-to-5 job, is I feel a bit guilty about taking a break. I'm not seeing anyone else leaving their desk. I don't know what they're doing. I'm assuming they're working furiously hard. So I feel like I can't really take a break. So I think if you know why you're taking a break and what you want to get out of that break, what you want it to give you, then that's going to help you to feel more attracted to taking that break. And it doesn't need to be for long. It could be 5 to 15 minutes. Again, notice how you're feeling. If your brain is feeling frazzled, or you're just feeling like this task is taking a really long time, take a break. And even when you're going for a walk or something for 5 or 10 minutes, that can really help you to just clear your mind, and it could give you some really fresh thinking for that task that you've been stubbornly trying to sort of sort out at your desk, where you're feeling like, I don't deserve to take a break. Take a break and just see what happens.
Yeah, I love that, because even just taking a break and putting the kettle on or going to the toilet or whatever, you will get ideas I think as you're moving, as you're physically moving. Whereas if you're like yourself to sit, it's, I get my best ideas, and I hear most people get the best ideas, in a walk or in the shower, or I do aqua when I'm hopping about. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. It's never when I'm just like sat somewhere, like it's too hard. So yeah, I love what you're saying, and I just wanted to interject. I should have said it on one of the last questions, but if people know me, they'll know I'm a former PA. So when I was a PA, I was like spending my whole day in my email because I was managing like diaries for lots of guys, and I was completely reactive. And the best tip you learn as a PA is only check your emails, in the morning for a few minutes, the lunch maybe for 5-10 minutes, and then whatever 3-4 p.m. you do not need to have your inbox open all day. And I would advise that to any like solopreneurs, don't keep your email open, because you will be reactive to pings and stupid emails coming in that have nothing to do with anything. Whatever the hell you've signed up for, it will distract you and just sap your energy. And the same applies to LinkedIn. I am not in LinkedIn all day. I just go in like my emails for a few minutes here and there. Otherwise, you're just going to waste hours like scrolling, and like Louisa was saying, not having that power hour and getting on with the task that moves the needle. So yeah, I love what you're saying. There's lots of golden nuggets here today. So the last question, and don't worry, this isn't the end. There's going to be something that we're going to chat about at the very end. If you're listening today and you really like what we're talking about, is we're going to chat about distractions and how, if you get distracted, it can take more than 20 minutes. It's actually in relation to what we were saying. It can take 20 minutes or so to get back on track. And I think that's probably why a lot of people don't want to move, because they know if they do kind of go to the toilet or whatever, it's going to take them longer to get back into the swing. So how can we kind of get over these distractions? And I know it does affect me easily for 20-30 minutes if I get distracted, to get back in the flow again.
Yeah, I'd love to hear in the comments what people have said. What's your biggest distraction? What takes you away from that focused work? I mean, I think we kind of know the typical answers, but I guess, yeah, as Jen says, there's been some research done that it's something like 26 minutes. If you get distracted, for example, by, I guess, a delivery driver or an email, or some other kind of notification or a phone call that you don't need to take. And I appreciate sometimes you do have to be distracted by some urgent things, but often if you're in deep work, it's quite scary to think that it can take you that long to get back into task. And once I learned that, it's like, right, I'm not going to be looking at my emails all the time, because one email that could potentially emotionally trigger you, and then you're like, oh, okay, I need to respond to that. Oh, I'm really, emotionally impacted by what that email said. And then you're off on a completely different tangent. And then that focus work is completely lost. So in terms of why it's important to get on top of those distractions, whether it be our mobile phones, our emails, it's about that focus. It's about being able to do your best work, and also doing it within a time frame that you want it, to be done in. Because what we all want is to be working our hours and then having time for our families. We don't want that working day to suddenly take on a life of its own because we spent half the time being distracted. So it's about creating that wonderful focus that allows us to do our best work. And when we are getting distracted, I know when it happens to me, it's because I'm not entirely engaged in that activity that I'm doing, or I'm not sure why I'm doing it, or I'm maybe a bit tired or a bit bored. Take a break, get back to it. And those distractions have a role to play, but not whilst we're doing our best work. And just one final fascinating fact, I know we've got to finish, is some research has been done, and constant interruptions can have the same effect as losing a night's sleep.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy. And I can understand how it happens. And then our thinking gets scattered, and then we can't do our best work.
Oh, there's so many good tips. I'm just going to share this quick comment from Beth. Just what she said, she tends to go for walks at lunchtime with her phone, listen to a podcast. Yeah, I definitely think any kind of walk is brilliant, you know, just getting out, getting some air and moving, you know,
Yeah.
because I definitely, the first year of my business, I was not kind to myself at all. And I was just sat there and yeah, just that is that hustle, 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 rubbish. And it's like you have to focus on you and
Yeah.
being a human being before you can do any of the doing and the productivity. So I love all your tips, and I'm definitely going to take away the 75-minute to 90-minute break thing.
Yeah.
And I think it makes the task seem a bit easier if you know you're going to like reward yourself with a
Yeah.
break then. You know,
Definitely.
then it's like, okay, I'm not just going to be sat here for 4 hours. It's only going to be an hour and a half or 75 minutes. And then there's a little break. So I'm definitely going to take that away. And I'm definitely going to try and think of the intentions for the day. I love that you did that. And the affirmation. I'm always good with the gratitude side of things. And when I
Yeah.
go around, like, even work with my husband, he's not so good at the gratitude. He is a grateful person, but I think I've had to lean more into this as a business owner.
Yeah.
Just I think just to get into that state, you know. So I'm always like, I'm grateful for a lovely day. I'm grateful that we live here by the sea. I'm grateful for this view. Everything, because it just puts you into that energetic state rather than hustle,
Definitely.
hustle,
And
doing
it's
those.
so good for our well-being, and there's so much research that's gone into this that it's really, really powerful. So I'd love to know from people listening, and even posting the comments afterwards if you're listening to replay, what one thing are you going to do differently after listening to this interview today? And I guess that's a typical coaching question. I'm always really interested to know what can people take away from what they've learned today.
Yeah, don't be shy. Let us know what you're going to do. And just to wrap it up, I know Louisa is doing an amazing webinar in about 2 weeks, and it's going to be going a lot deeper into this topic. And I'm going to be a special guest talking about LinkedIn. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the webinar? And we can share the link with people if you're interested. I'm actually just going to show this little banner for a sec. If anyone's interested, it's going to be on the 11th. We can share the link with you in the DMs or in the comments. There's only going to be 100 spots because Louisa wants to run it as a more kind of a relaxed, informal meeting rather than speaking to hundreds of people. So if you are interested, let us know. And Louisa, do you want to tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about what you're going to be diving into?
So the first essential practice that we talked about half an hour ago was about morning rituals and morning routines. And I really want to dig deeper because I think often we really struggle to set ourselves up for a really good day ahead, a day that's focused, intentional, and is really positive, and we know how we're going to use that day. So I'd love for you to come to this masterclass where we'll be thinking a little, first of all, starting with 5 mistakes we often make as female business owners, or business owners, doesn't have to be just females, as business owners in planning our days. And then we're going to focus a little bit more about why morning routines and morning rituals really can make a difference, and delve in there. Jen's going to be talking a little bit about LinkedIn, and we've got some goodies in store as well. So we'd love for you to come along. I think it's going to be a really great session. And by coming live, you're going to really benefit from being inspired by each other, because I really want us to come away with a really good framework for how we want our morning routines to be. And I think when you hear about other people's ideas, then it can really spark ideas for yourself as well.
Amazing. It's going to be brilliant. And I only wish I had this kind of like webinar or heard this kind of thing when I first started in business, because I certainly did not have a clue until a few years in. So I'm loving hearing what people are saying they're going to do as well. So Wendy said she's going to focus on avoiding distractions. Marta, avoiding distractions as well. I'm just going to put this up and say thank you. We'll take that, Lisa. Thank you. And Marta said as well, avoid distractions. So that seems to be a big one, and maintaining the routine. So I like that. So we hopefully will see you in 2 weeks. We'll share the link, and hopefully we'll see a few more of you then. And I just want to thank Louisa for being an amazing badass with her first live. But you'd never even know it's your first live, so You're amazing. And I look forward to doing the webinar with you. I know that's going to be great as well. And yeah, we just wish you all a really great Monday. Hope it's sunny where you are. And yeah, come to the webinar, and that way you can kind of bring into spring. Okay, so thank you everyone, and thank you, Louisa, and we'll see you soon. Thanks a million for coming, and thanks for engaging, everyone. Bye. Thank you. Thanks, Martha.